Flight navigations, body adjustments, position location, all levels, pyramid active stream locations, setting calculation, stream location settings. It's all about levels of how you set your locations in your division. Okay, your division lies in so many communication surface. So try to get into a flow and how you communicate with your system. And you're seeing things, you're hearing things, you're feeling things, you're tasting things. It's all sensory, guys. It's senses. It's uprising the inhibitor locations of how you are connected from inside location of space. You hear space more, you smell space more, you taste space, and you can taste space. But these are higher level locations. You have all line centered to the ground interference. You start with physical locations, right? Adaptation, line setting, interference, a three-dimensional location. But you're not in that division locations. You're in line setting location of 6, 7, and center locations of 8. And that's platted division locations into geometry locations. The atmosphere line setting is all in position to its hemisync. Okay? Now, this is an alchemy division that you guys are setting in wind cycles, position location aligned to levels of general AI spacetime. Okay? So recognizing that line stream is to understand locations, how you use geometry interference. Today in class, we're going to get into the geometry line setting. The geometric locations, the geotheriums, the communication system, the newer technology line setting, how to use your operation. Not just the opening sequence, but knowing how to use the operations to its direction. Geometric location of its pattern settings. Okay, the geometric location to its AI connections to its map sequence locations. Setting line settings is truly saying your position of where you are through your avatar connection, right? So when you are communicating, you're doing what? It's all about raising everything to a higher level of channel of operation of you, right? So when you're connecting to higher connections to its vibration, it's a sensitivity line. It's very sensitive. You're sensitive to everything. Dogs, barking, you pick up the vibration, right? Now it has an echo liner, right? And how many times does it communicate? And it communicates to different tone lines per second, per channel, per minute, per hour, per volume. Everything is a per volume because this goes way line setting in position location at E equals mc squared. The energy line center to equal location in position of mass calculates and modifies all level system locations of times of square, times of position, times of clocking, times of high setting in factor over pi communication of space lines. Now, the space communication system is all levels of an operation line setting. Okay? Your voice has to flow. Your sensories have to flow. Your senses. Learn how to use them through adaptation, knowing exactly how to touch and feel and taste, hear and see and understand the system inside you is all levels of operation. Okay, that's the way you're going to understand more all levels on how to reach these things through resource lines. Now, when you come into a channel operation setting, you have to truly understand how the avatar comes into its flow of recognition. Okay, so when general is speaking general, I'm speaking to all of you all at once in one frequency, one timeline. Not 7 different timelines. I'm communicating to all your avatars on different frequency tone settings, right? But you're always getting the same equation. Isn't that fascinating? So that's the calculations that you have to set locations to your cycles. This center is its generational light connections. Understanding the solar position of where you're standing in point of view, understanding your chakra systems, understanding your 7 locations, understanding your 5 atmosphere positions. You have to understand your 12 DNA line setting. Your chakra system is all levels of transmitting and receiving. We got into that before, and I'll keep giving that to you every single day. And that every single day should be the same day, just in different frequencies, at different vibrations, to different graph line settings, to all levels of different division locations, to its geometric locations, to its geometry setting locations, to all levels of calculation. Okay? So your mind has to be in a continuous flow line. Your brain setting has to be in a graph locations. Okay, the visionary line center has to understand its continuous thought without creating the thought. Now you're very confused right now because you're just thinking, wait a minute. You're saying, wait a minute, General, this doesn't make any sense. But it does make sense, right? See, when it makes sense, you're not creating. It's already stored of information, which means that you're already in plateau of your future calculation setting. So to understand the thought communication is understand what you are doing through your intention. How do I create these without getting into a confusion of anomaly? All right. Do not create thoughts until you understand what they are through their own to direct location of their own anomaly of space of time through pi. Okay. So thinking is a process, okay, of hesitation. And we've got into that setting, right? It's like, I don't know. I'm not sure. So if you're not sure what is happening to the mind of your thought, you're traveling extremely fast. What's happening? You're standing still, right? You're in friction, you're in notification, right? So it's trying to understand which way do I go? Which way do I go? Do I turn this way? Do I turn that way? Do I go up here? Go down here? What about here? Do I just spin around? What do I do to avoid the situation? Don't create it. Problem solved. Right? The biggest thing that everybody does is create a problem. That's a problem on its own. Let me say it again. The biggest thing that everybody does is creates a problem. That creates another problem. That creates another problem. One more time. That creates another problem, which is another anomaly of a shift positions to your space, time, vision, location of its perception. So every time you are communicating, you are changing your vibration. You're changing your energy. You're changing your form. You're changing your structure. You're changing your division. You're changing your stream. You're changing coloration. You're changing your space. You're changing your time. You're changing your pi through geometry. Now we're going to get into line setting locations, into the geometric locations of patterns. All right. The central communication system is going to be all set up line setting into letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Okay. We're going to set up a video graph screen. And that video graph screen is going to have all calculations to all different geometric locations of travels. Okay. You guys are going to try all different line settings of all 12 positions, all different teleportation units in a vortex chamber. Okay. So all positions to its directions. Okay. You try to understand the pictures, the line settings, the visionary cortex locations. All right. So setting up the team setting locations into all levels of plateau, position of pattern lines. Let's open our calculations setting to PC line centers, CPU locations to DCP. All right, so trial position and recognition timelines, lock location centers. So in that calculation setting, there's going to be 12 locations. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, 12 teleportation units. So each one of you are going to try line setting all line interference position to all levels. You're going to go into one. You're going to jump out in vortex chamber line setting and go into number 2, go into number 3, all the way up to 12 locations. All right. This is about understanding how to get into the geometry locations of your avatar setting. Let's put you in the better direct locations, right? All levels of triangulation, right? So the avatar sets line signals. Okay. Okay. So you got 3 line centers of a bench. Okay. You got 6 line centers of a bench. Okay. But if you look really closely, you can see the E line. See the E line position? See the E? So anything position location changes line connections. So you go from a line setting location to a bench to all levels of an E line setting, right? E, right? Into position of C. See? communication setting. So setting position location to 3-track centers opens all calculation setting rotations, right? So we're going to go through elimination graph location, all right, and division location into center communication setting, all right? So this is going to high rise into fluctuation line streams, okay? So it's 3 locations into the ground locations of power and generation light settings, all right? So you understand where you go to locations? Inline setting locations, DDD, right? Division, dimension, and direction. But if you look really closely, you can see line conditions of geometry setting, how they're set up in position location in different calculations, right? Okay. Nothing's ever the same unless you want it the same locations. Now you have to say which line setting is off calculation. Which one's different? Which one's different? Right? Which one's different? This one, right? But if you look really closely, they're all different. So you can't say this is different and not these, because these are all different locations, right? So even if you see the same pattern, it's different intelligence. We have to get out of that old program setting and set position location to its source line setting. This is obviously the first one that you see, position location, that's offsetting, but this is the highest formation location of travel. To set communication is to understand how to travel locations, all right? So when you get into all levels of a line screen, you get 2 panels of communication, right? Now, once you get in that setting, it's all levels how you set up an AI map line, okay? Okay, so there's 2 hook settings to its location, right? And a channel. So this comes into your anchors. This comes into your wings, right? Left wing, right wing, north wing, south wing. All right, you get a calculation levels of navigation system, line condition levels of 12, line rotation centers into modulation. Modulation is simulation, puts you into one singularity of calculation setting. Okay, 3 line position location and triangulation into its diamond core line. But if you look really close, you can see the intelligence. See the eyes? Right? So everything's in front view and calculation setting, line condition, electronic line setting interference. It sets position location directions, all levels. This is a higher line positions to a geometry interference that set location to its geometric locations of patterns. Pattern of everything in position location voices the channel operation stream location to its division location and calculation setting. Now this opens up position location of point systems. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4-point locations, right? So inline setting, you split it down cross line setting locations into the ground location, right? Okay, and then you basically set another positions of pi in 4 direct locations. Okay, and then you open up a circle line that sets positions to its dimensional line setting. Okay, and basically set another circle location into a Fibonacci square. All right, now you're saying, where's the square? I said a Fibonacci square. You just see it as the Fibonacci swirl. Well, the square line setting is right here in position location, waiting on signal, right? So now it's in position location of its direction, right? Just because you don't see something doesn't mean it's not there, right? So in that line setting, it comes in a correlation line, sets line position of 3 track line connections in division, okay? So understanding the geometrics, the geometry and location is to understand the quantum setting. So once you understand the quantum setting, you understand the entanglements, or you get into a colossal line setting off interference, sets position locations or levels of sonar communication. It redirects signals in position of other line settings of all calculations to its position of space of time of its own pi communication to all levels of its system. Okay. So it's amazing how I'm adding frames here, But every time I'm adding a frame, it's always volume and so many communication of mass calculation to timelines that's open all line connection to its future position, right? So you can hide force line settings into all calculations into another Fibonacci square in setting line interference. Now that redirect locations, position locations. Now this is on the east wing line setting, right? See the box location was here, now it's over here. Center calculation is center calculation position, right? In triangulation. 3-point line settings, right? And then you go in the same position locations. This is all calculated and modified to a butterfly effect. But this is high line, setting line interference position, future of calculation setting. This course is in so many communications into clock line settings, into 100,000 lines per second, per minute, per mile, per operation, per square. Okay, so don't get confused that location to its anomaly. But everything that is set is all levels of future position. Okay, so every time I'm setting lines of communication, my voice grid is all levels of balance, of recognition of continuous flow lines. So get into that program setting of your avatar. And every time you speak, you know exactly what you're saying without creating the thought because it's already stored of information. It's like me handing you a page ahead of time. You know exactly when to use it, right? It comes in your line setting in all levels of its observation. Now, this opens all signal locations, position, or direction, right? But it's amazing what you can do through locations of all mind adaptations to higher levels of geometry setting. All right. All right, so let's get into all positions. How's everybody doing? Ryan, Adam, Art, Infinite. Let's see, Eric, Tara, Pam, Gypsy, Gingy, Heather, Tommy, Heather line setting, Jill calculation setting, Danny. Let's see, today's structure is Laura, Commander, Joanne, Sarah. All right, Roland. Great, thank you very much, Roland, for changing your locations. I appreciate that. Geneva, Andy. You guys are gonna have a lot of questions. So everything that I say is already set up, which is already done. That's why it's easy for me to understand these things. I don't create thoughts. It's too confusing because it changes time frame of your spaceline position of direction, right? So, and this is what you have to understand is stay in the now line. The now is the 2-panel communication system, not in the past, not in the future, just the position location, that standing point of view. That is the 9 central system of all calculation of its time frame, which brings all position location to its calculation, all levels of its time reactor. Because you're acting upon of its reaction location, which is leveling you in all division. The sector communication system is all levels of channel line setting. This is all calculated and modified to all lines of its planes. You got astral planes, astral connections, astral project location, right? It's you leveling your communication to geometry interference and how many times you can go into higher levels of geometry settings, right? Max, David, Yolanda, Call, Johnny, Guardian. Happy birthday, David. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear David. Happy birthday to you. All right, so let's see here. Cammy. Tina. All right. So does everybody understand when you understand your geometry location of you? You have to start seeing you not just through the central center. You have to start seeing you, whole universe line center of you from head to toe as a geometry position of connection of travel, right? So this is how it works. This is you. Okay, that's you, right? So scan settings sets position, location, and directions, how it sets locations to the brain setting location of its mind. The hardware, the software comes in calculation setting in position of simulation. Now this aligns center location or it disappears position. Okay, so come into calculation setting. It's all levels of travel. Okay, now you understand it's all position locations, how you set lines of a transformer. That's a geometry setting. That's a higher division line setting, but it's a thought recognition of time, space of time, to direct locations, volumes of time, mass of time, echolocation line conditions at all levels of space through its position of time. Everything is on time. You're creating something through time. Time machine. Okay. So this is about understanding you through the mind setting and how you understand more levels of space of its connected setting location of interference. So in that position, this is where you come into thought. Thought comes in. There's the thought. I just created the thought. Now the thought is what? This is the thought communication levels of travel communication setting. There's the thought that I created. Now, what is it doing? Well, the central communication setting is scanning the ground setting locations to all levels in position. That's what my thought's creating. Do you understand that? So it's not just creating a thought, it's creating more levels of an idea, and that idea becomes its vision. So when you have an idea, you're creating a vision that centrals its system to space calculation setting that opens all levels of your clock line, right? Clocking is extremely important because how fast do you want to create this? How fast are you connecting to your thought? And you're taking one letter, one symbol, one number, position to its calculations of its energy, its vibration, its frequencies, and its harmonics. Okay. If you're getting into symbol unit locations in line setting, what is that line setting? What is it? What is it? Because it's connected the line setting location to a thought, right? So that thought line center line in rotation knows exactly what it is to calculation setting. So it knows exactly what it's doing. It's changing trajectory locations of division line settings of tonal interference position, all levels of calculation. So this is this. This is what you just created from a thought location. One thought is one vision. So, and that vision determines what you do, the position and direction locations. You don't even have to create the thought because you just created the thought just by stating that line setting. So that's how important it is, and that's how powerful your intelligence is to understand your calculation setting locations. So creating a thought is already created. Not creating a thought is already created because you keep saying thought. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. As soon as you add the thought line setting, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you created something that you understand or you don't understand of the physical system location to the psychological line connection to the psychosis location of one letter, one frame, one position, one calculation, high setting, and position of direct location to its center. It's extremely complicated if you don't understand all levels of what general AI space-time means. Right? So The balance is all levels of you, how you recognize your thought positions. And I really want to get into the geometry setting because every time you modify and calculate all levels of an operation system to one thought position locations, you're setting up higher levels of geometry locations into quantum physics. That's what you're doing through one thought. And that one thought is traveling very fast in acceleration line setting. Let's say you got 27,000 lines per second, per channel, per operation, per square, per mile. Now the operation line setting location is line setting. So if you go over bound on communication, you're no longer in a 27,000 line signature. You're in a 27 million position location into one thought channel. Okay. So it's very important that you understand what you're doing before you're creating these things in that setting. Okay. So staying in your timeline, staying in your time frequencies, time codes, time lock line setting, line interference, position location, analogical line condition, digital frame position location, and one clock setting sets position location of its directions, right? You got 12 atmospheres of center lines. You got 24 communication settings. You got 48 line center locations. You got 72 track line settings, and you got 144 in position to its crystal activation grid location. Now, that's just a basic standpoint and all levels of flight navigations. I keep telling you exactly why do you think you have a computer of a keyboard line setting and position all levels of flight navigations to 1 to 12? Is that coincidence? No, it's connected to your position locations into your chakra system. Right? Is it a coincidence why you have a number pad position locations, all levels in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? No, 9 is the central communication setting. Is it a coincidence why you have a space bar? Is it a coincidence why you have position of escape bar? Is it a coincidence why you have caps and locks and tabs? No. Everything is given to you through geometry setting of levels of communication. This is how you channel your line settings of all communication line interference. So line positioning, okay, line connecting, line positioning, line connecting, high setting. So there's all levels of you. Start with the alphabetical string, starting all over as a foundation locations. You start with A, okay, and then you go to B. Let's start with A, B's, and C's, right? So what is the A line setting, high center, and interference location to its geometry interference? What is that? Okay, so A can be position locations on levels, the line conditions, position, location, and directions, right? So A could be airplane. Okay. Okay. Airplane. So A represents airplane in positions to what? Where is it going through? Equal line center locations of its atmosphere. Airplane, equal line center to atmosphere position. That's 2 track settings. Equals 2. Right? That's trial position, location, directions, right? So A represents what? Airplane equal location of atmosphere equal line center locations line centers of 2. So that's 2 in direct location and position and directions. The geometry line setting sets position locations of 1, 2, right? There's 2 line right there, right? So this is this. This is this, right? See, it's got 2 points in position or directions, right? It's very fascinating when you understand the geometry locations of ether vision. 2 points, right? 2 points right there. So the only thing that's left line setting is position at levels of balance. Okay. Barometer. Beacon. Okay. So it's all about understanding the position locations of C, A, B's, and C line setting. So it's all levels of how you set an airplane, equal location of its atmosphere, equal line center location of 2 position locations in a high setting. So anything that you do is position of measure. Measure calculates all levels of its volume. Now, volume is mass. We already know that line setting. Calculation is to and from, position, location, directions. So you got space channeling conditions. Atmosphere is equal line center location of space, right? Aerodynamic line setting line position locations to its G EO. All right. The geometric energy of its operation. Okay. Then you come into GEO again, right? Geometric energy and communication to its opening setting. So it's all levels of how you calculate and modify how your set positions to its bracket line setting in 3 communication system to 6 position location direct line settings. All right. There's all ways of communication to its aerodynamics. This sets line wing cycles in high center locations, and this is where it comes into flight navigations from 1 to 12. So there's all levels of communication. The geometry set location has its own equation to its formula. So you can pretty much travel through anything until you understand the avatar. The avatar has to truly understand all modification to its simulation, to its singularity. All right. The simulation is its hologram of its stream. That sets lines to its Merkaba. Merkaba position locations can be anything in that setting. Okay. So it's all about understanding what you are co-creating to its position location of its direction. Okay. So this is Highline channel, but what is it position location? Is it in an opening setting or is it in an operation line circle? See, you have to understand how to use your 12 lines, and that's not going to lead to system locations. That's a constellation path that you volume on so many levels of massive calculation, right? You have to recognize your avatar through all levels of geometry because the geometrics of its operation system puts you in all levels of quantum physics. Okay. Now, quantum physics lies in so much communication systems through times of mapping, times of pi, space-times and position of factor over pi, calculates underlying center locations under pi, relays of pi, calculations of pi, allocate positions of timeline sequences of pi, paradoxes of pi, paradigm communications of pi. Everything is set up in shape, guys. Everything that you look at is nothing but a shape. And anything that you see, you can travel through its geometry setting. It's all calculated and modify how you see your avatar line condition. It's all levels of travel recognitions, right? A space continuum. It's always a continuous force. So the center communication stays in center line, right? So it can travel line setting in 4 position locations, or it can just weave off in center. Okay, it weaves off in center. It comes in position locations to all levels to another port of communication. Now that port of communication sets line setting, travels position locations into a levels to a lower ground setting to another position locations. So you travel one position to another calculations to another. So it's really understanding that you're setting up geometry line center of atmosphere position of direct locations. All right. 2 bracket line settings to another channel communications. So what's happening right now is that once you reach atom capacity, center calculation setting, you can go to higher level position of directions into higher channels of operation setting. Okay. So that's 4 channels of operation of geometric location of patterns into higher line division locations into geometric operation of direction. You know, you come into your all levels, your geometry setting, your geographical system, your perception location of systematic line connections, or anything in that division. So I want you to understand the importance of when you are traveling through lines of your avatar in different shape locations. Okay, but it's all connected. Everything's connected to your Merkaba. Everything's connected to the tesseract. Everything's connected to your tetrahedron, octahedron, anything hexagonal, you know. So we got so many position location of shapes. We got a square setting. We got a star line setting. We got a circle rotation. We got a line setting. There's 4 line settings right there, right? All different shape location of travels. And thinking, how can you travel through this? Well, I just told you exactly what it is until I change it otherwise, right? So if I want to change it, I have to change the space and time of division to its locations. And that's what it becomes to highline setting, to higher level division, right? But it's still 4 communications. Now, they're not line connecting, are they? until they understand their telepathy communications into 4-box locations. Now I got channel operations of 4 communications, right? So that symbolizes center communications into all level systems to higher line positions, to a higher level channel, to a higher communication system, to a higher complication line connections, to levels of travel recognition. Okay? Higher form of communication in geometry setting. So it gets more complicated when you understand the communications of you through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. So you can take the 1, you can take the triangle, you can take 3 weather pattern communication, you can change the Fibonacci sequence line setting, and you can change line center locations of letters in position, location, and directions, all in geometry setting. I can take all this and create a teleportation unit, all in one setting. So, understanding telegraphing, telecommunication, telearning line center, telepathy and interference location, all levels of measure sets position locations into 1. Now, the 1 line center wants to understand position of the triangle, but that's not a triangle, it's a pyramid because I changed the frame. If I change the frame, it's in the future line. If it stays in division, it's in the now communication. Center line setting sets all positions. Now, those are 3 weather patterns. Are they going forward or are they going back? That's all determination on you, right? So remember, all this is calculated to align setting locations into 1 thought position because it knows exactly where it's going in space communication of its command setting. All right. So 1 line setting in position locations centers this calculation. Now, when you're centering this calculation, you know exactly how to communicate. So you do telepathy wave centers. All right, there it is in position of 4-box line setting in a 5 position location directions, right? So that's a 4-box location, equal line center location of 5 division. Okay. 4-box vibrational graph equals 5 division. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 intelligent signals in a 4-box line setting. Set communications to higher line setting, high interference and direct locations into 3 channel line settings. Okay. Higher lines of teleportation unit. Now you set up an orb communication system. Dimensional line setting, you can cross wind and you can set position location overlap line settings to circle locations, higher levels of travel. So this changes into this. This does not work because this is different. This is a 3 circle line setting in a 4 line position, right? 3 circle line setting, okay, in a 4 division. So to understand your levels and how you use the geometry setting location of youth in line setting. So if the 1 line setting is off in calculations, it equals line connection of percentage. This is how you come into 1 line setting. 1 equals percentage, but percentage line centers a dot communication of 0 in line position locations into 1. Right? But look closely. Okay, look at the intelligent line. 1 equals percentage. Okay, so this is percentage of what? Over. Okay, docile of 0 equals 1. Right? 1 stands on 1 line setting. Okay, now you can travel through this line position, but it's at geometry locations. Right? But you have to stand on line to your pyramid communication system because it directs its line connections to all levels. Right? This is your pyramid. Right? So information is given to you to understand line setting. So it's all level locations, right? All right, so I really want you to get into the deeper core line center to your geometric locations and what you're creating. You're co-creating letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols at a higher level of your conscious location. So it gets a lot more informative of what you're doing through position, guys, right? So you can get percentage lines equals lines. Percentage equals lines, but how many percentage? Well, line connecting line center locations of 9. 9 line center location of box. Box equals line position locations into levels of UFO connection. Now you're saying, how does this make any sense? Because it's balanced in position to its direction locations, guys. You know what I mean? Isn't that amazing? So what is the 9 central line setting? It's you in division, right? Your center operation location is a percentage that equals line center location of its level. The level communicates center line interference. So it can change the level and position location of vector across locations of 8. 8 positions center its lines in infinity cycle, sets communication in positions. You take the 8 line center in percentage, 8 equals percentage locations over line setting location of its level line system. So there's a lot of communication setting that sets line position of direction. Now this gets more complicated because I'm reaching more lines of formulas. Okay. So you really have to understand your avatar through geometry setting. Now it's set up positions to its letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. It's all calculated and modified. If you can't calculate and modify through harmonics, you're going to have a huge problem to understand that position. So one position location wants to travel. 1 equals line center 1, 1, 1, 1. That's the equation location of formula. 1 equals 4 ones. So you take the 4, 1 position locations, bracket center line position location, okay, equal line center location of 48 position locations of a window. All right. So this is to understand how you get a 48 window line setting and position location of bracket interference, equal line center location, positional directions into 1 equals 4 position locations and calculations. You circle the 4 line setting. Then you come in position location to its triangulation. So it's very powerful when you get to more line setting interference. You can set formula communication system, formula line setting interference. Okay, we got line setting locations, alpha channel communications, line setting. Alpha sets position locations and levels into high levels of metric communication. So you always have to, all levels, it's lace line. Now you have a T reception line. Now I'm going forward in communication. TV line center, equal line conditions, and percentage over position location of factor, okay, equals space. That's a formula. So understanding formulas is understanding the geometry locations of everything that you see. Everything on a keyboard line setting is geometry location of travel. 1 is travel. 1 equals travel. So if 1 equals travel, travel is the percentage location to its 9. The 9 central system is position location to its position of 6, 7, and its 8 and its 9 line connections. So setting up equations of formulas is extremely powerful when you come into the line setting locations. You got a Y line setting in location of flux capacitor, right? Flux capacitor line positions over factors communication of vortex, okay, into velocity. Now velocity sets position of a dome. So velocity sets position locations across location. So you have to set an energy dome line, right? Or you can't travel locations, right? It separates its unit. So velocity changes position location to its flux capacitor, sets position location to its open ground setting, sets line center circle interference, oscillograph interference, sets position location directions, center calculation of travel location. Right? Everything is set in the equation of a formula, of structure division. Okay? So you have to understand your levels that you can reach, because this is what your positioning of directness to is your magnetic highway information line setting. This is what you're working with. You're working with your solar generation line setting location to your atom communication system, which is connected to the ground setting, right? So you understand the 2 panels of communication, right? You understand your line center of your orb communication setting, set position locations of its directional line center rotation, all in modification. So remember, the flowing recognition of line setting is to understand how to use location of its equation. If I got a 2 channel, that's a 2 channel. It's not a 2, it's a 2 channel. So 2 channel equals line center location of a box, right? So the box comes into line position location to its high center location to its antenna. Then the antenna line center line position location sets line position location to its planet. Planet equal line center location to its beta in communication system. All right. So planet equals line center of the Vega. Vega communication to its box. Box position to 2 of the communication system equal line center location of box. Line setting. So it's all recognition of time in position, location, directions. You see how easy it is to set up equation of forming line settings, obstruction, interference, because I understand line setting location of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, all three geometry location of travel. Hoo-ah. You know what's more fascinating? Every time I structure its division location, you're traveling through it. Isn't that amazing? So that's a true understanding. You got to get a friendship, relationship, and partnership with yourself through geometry location of travel to understand the GOD line setting. The geometric operation is just the division location of directions to its dimension. Okay, I really need you to get into the deeper core. So if you get a 2 division, right? It's not 2 communications, 2 division now, but you see it as 2. I see it as division. You see how that works? You have to go beyond 2 because it's not a 2. The 2 turns into a geometry location of travel. The avatar sees the position location of what 2 is. It's not the number 2. 2 equals location of geometry, right? Geometry line setting like connection position locations to your GOE, geometric energy of operation, the geographical location and energy line center location of its opening system, the central system communication line setting, all through 2. So you really have to communicate with your system inside. So everything I'm doing, you are seeing. Because there's balance in both line settings. There's balance with the 1 on both sides. 1 is not 1. 1 is geometry of everything. You understand? So if you understand the applied to division locations of 1, you split this division location as 2. 1 plus 1 is not 2. 1 plus 1 equals everything locations. Mass of nothing is everything in an equation. So if you understand that connections, then you understand the geometry setting, how it's set up line setting locations to your position of time frame. Okay, that's going to help you in all ways inform set calculation setting. It helps your division locations once you understand general AI spacetime. Okay. So we'll do one more line setting. We obviously got Q&A. So I really want you guys to get into outline setting locations. Stop seeing things as square setting, right? E equals line setting of square, square position over factor, factor over pi, position over space, position over time, one line setting off calculation, position on direct location. Now you're traveling through that location. See, you're traveling through that right now of what I just sent out location to its receiving setting. You're setting something to receive. So when you receive these things, you know what it is through its travel location, that it's setting traffic. Setting traffic is communication to your data stream that's setting position location to its direct locations. Okay? So to understand that is to understand all communication of all thoughts. Right? That's the only way you guys are going to understand anything of its equation. Because everything is set up in geometry setting. Okay? So we got a 0 line setting. A 0 line setting. How is that a 0 line setting? Right? Because it's already set up through its equation. All right? So you're already traveling through it. You're traveling through a 0 line setting. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's on a 45 window in percentage location, in center calculations, in position directions, into an 8 line setting. See? So that's communications when you understand letters, numbers, and shapes and symbols and all levels of travel, recognition of space and time through pi, right? So 1 is space of times of pi. So is everything else. Once you have your keyboards and your calculation settings, then you send your line setting location to its division. Understanding your divisions understands your sectors and your vectors. That's very high rise location, your RMG location of travels. All you're doing is from your avatar is setting higher formation locations of equation to travel these things through your space anomaly. That's all this is. So it's much easier if you have a calmer mind. You have a calmer mind, you have more levels of an open space, but the open space can't have creation. Do you understand? It clutters the division. Don't have anything in center line. Open sequence, open pattern. Space of mind. Okay? So these are the things you have to look at and how it works for you. Everything works for you. It's a rotation spin cycle, a center calculation setting line. It opens all communication setting and position locations, how you use your travels of geometry location. The geometrics operation of design. All right. All right. I'll see you guys on Zoom. Taking you out of track setting high interference and direct locations into position direct locations. Waiting to 15 setting. All right, you guys are back. Close all line send location of portals. Check your pre-flight location settings, all calculation modification. I'll see you guys on Q&A. Adios.